All right, here we go. Welcome back, Panther fans. I'm David Brown, along with Ryan Graham.
Hey, y'all.
And Tim Thurber.
Hello.
And this is State of Atlanta.
Cheers.
All right, I'm wine guy tonight.
Wine guy. Oh man, you're
You guys
always
can see on the video. My teeth are purple.
You're always exceptional to have on here when you're a wine Ryan.
Yeah. And I've already been a wine Ryan for the past 2 hours. Just so you know.
That's great. I've been more light Dave for the past hour and a half, but anyhow, welcome back, guys. How has your week been?
So much fun.
I actually watched a little sports. Watched some NASCAR.
Oh yeah, I saw that was on. How many left turns did you watch?
Well, there's 500 laps or 300 laps times 4 turns. So
watched all of them.
Yeah. Well, no, actually, I was talking to Tim a little bit during the whole thing. We're texting back and forth. I finally got sports on. I never watched NASCAR, but I was watching this just to be able to have some kind of competition to watch that wasn't the 2012 Cornhole Championships or anything. And so I go down. So then I'm doing, what was I doing? Burgers or something on the grill. I go downstairs to fire up the grill. I come back and Baby Einstein's is on the TV. So I didn't get to watch laps, probably 100 through 250, but I did get to finish the race. So
David, where is the commitment? The actual
I think I committed to NASCAR a lot more than I ever have in my life. So
like somebody needs to win something.
They got the little rating number boost for somebody else turning it on that never turns it on.
I turned it on. I just didn't see anything. I think the race had finished. So I don't think that counts for watching NASCAR.
Were you trying to watch The Simpsons or something? Because it went late. It went long because they actually had an accident on the very first lap. The very, very first lap, somebody got an accident and went out. It was after, what was it, 100-something days of waiting for racing to start back again, and like he couldn't even make it one full lap around the rotation.
I call staged.
Yeah, we can't even restart sports properly.
Yeah.
This is what's going to be like when we get back to actual real sports and everything. It's going to be like the first pass is going to be, dropped ball. The first pitch is going to be a bean ball. It's going to be all garbage, right?
Yeah.
Well, we got a different episode tonight for everybody, or for this week, I guess. New logo came out for the Sun Belt, which we kind of knew about a few weeks ago. Got leaked from, what was it, South Alabama, had an open practice or something.
They had a practice field that they were building.
Yeah. So we had a chance to take a look at it, but we're going to have on, thanks to Tim, he reached out. We actually have the graphic artist behind the logo. So come on, he said he'd come talk to us about it, about how it came into being and the hidden meaning, the Illuminati symbols and everything that are in this logo. So we had to find out all about it.
Are you guys going to play nice?
Of course we're going to play nice. Yeah,
we're going to play nice.
I don't want to say the state of Atlanta is a safe zone, but we're not a bunch of jerks.
Yeah, I mean, well, let's be real here. We are. I'm apathetic, and you guys are like super like emotional. You guys are like driven to this. You care about the color of the logo needs to be the absolute perfect royal blue. What's the hex code? Quick.
It's pretty simple. Yeah, all the codes are posted online. But actually, Tim and I went through and looked at that, and they contradict each other from all over the place. Even Georgia State, of course, Georgia State's contradicts itself. But even looking at other schools, you really can't find a uniform thing. But so he's going to come on and talk to us about it. Before he comes on, we had the look at it. Tim, you said you get some pretty strong feelings about it when we first saw it. But have you come around? Are you feeling better about it? You like it, or?
Yes, when I first saw the logos, I thought, well, we're the best of the worst.
Right. So we didn't know what the logo was going to look if we were going to have school-specific colors.
Right.
We just saw whatever was on South Alabama's field. And I think that was a lot of the big concern was, oh, no, we're going to get screwed over again with having a black
and blue, right? Red and blue, some like what are we doing color combination.
White's a tough one to do for a graphic designer because like that's just like not a primary color that you use. That's like the background.
Yeah, exactly. Everything's on a white background, so you have to make way for that. But I'm fine with that. Those are our school colors. Work with it, or don't have school specific colors. I think
that's my whole thing. Stop putting the SBC logo with school specific colors. Just make it the regular, like whatever our colors are, the gold and blue or whatever it is.
That goldish orange and
like a copper and blue or something. Yeah, it's ugly.
It's not a great color scheme to begin with, but
no, but like roll with it. Just stick that logo on every field. You don't have to like customize it for the color.
I think it's kind of neat. It's a unique way of trying to get a little buy-in, whatever. But yeah, I agree. You don't see. I mean, think about what if the SEC did something like that and had a red and black SEC circle on the field? Would it look better than having their blue and white logo on the field?
I mean, our colors are barely different than the SEC colors. We're just darker, I think, colors, and the SEC's is lighter blues and golds.
Yeah, so what they should do is they should make the Sunbelt logo just be the blue and white logo, and then everybody else wear our colors on their. Screw that! They're not good enough to wear our colors. I don't want them wearing blue and white.
That's a bad idea.
Wear your ugly crimson and gold Texas State. You don't get to wear awesome blue and white.
Navy and gold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Exactly.
Yeah. One thing that I did like about the announcement was we were the only school that did stand up and say, no, you're not going to screw us with some alternate. And we just got our like one set of logos, and we were like, well, if you can't make the other set good, then like don't do it.
And that's something I definitely want to talk to Brian about tonight. Is how did that conversation go? Was it something that he pushed for, the school pushed for? Because I mean, as we know, it's really hard to believe that Georgia State actually got out of something doing the best possible outcome that there is. If they had their choice in the matter of it, typically they find a way to screw it up at least a little bit, throw in some anthracite in there or something.
I'm sure he'll let us know.
We could have thrown that in there. I'm sure there were options. He'll tell us about all.
That's another question I want to ask about. Is what other options were there? Was this SBC thing? Was that just the only thing pitched, or were they wanting to have that SBC rebranding thing, get away from having Sunbelt written out? But yeah, we'll see. Yeah, he should be joining us here in the next 10 to 25 minutes. We'll see. He's out west, so his time zone's a lot different than ours.
Over in Portland, hanging out.
Yeah, hanging out the Goonies, hopefully, right?
Yeah.
There's somewhere out there. Welcome to the rest of the people that joined. Fran, I guess it's your birthday. Happy birthday, Fran.
Oh, happy birthday, Fran.
Yeah. Alexis, welcome. I think I saw Matthew joined us. Yep. Welcome.
Wow. We're making it. We're like real time. We have 5 viewers right now.
For those that did join after we got started, we're going to have the graphic artist that behind the Sunbelt logo coming on in a little while and talk about how that came into being. And if you guys have any questions yourself, leave them in the chat on Facebook, and we will try our best to ask the questions if they're appropriate. I know Max is going to come out there with some inappropriate questions. She's quite inappropriate herself, so.
But I gotta say, I mean, I came around on the logo once I saw it on our jersey. I thought it looked solid. I mean, the fact that we didn't go two-tone, or we avoided two-tone coloring on the Sunbelt logo, I think was a big win for the school. And having the right colors finally after 7 years of being blue and black, and now we're blue.
Yeah, that we just lost out so big in that rebranding they did 5 or 6 years ago. So whether or not you like this logo or not, I'm glad to get away from that one. Although it does seem like a lot of people liked the old logo quite a bit.
I like the old logo. The wheel, I liked it. I think it looks good.
Pizza wheel, that's what I call it.
Pizza.
Yeah, I just don't care about all the stuff you guys care about. That's why I wasn't very excited about talking about logos for like an hour and a half.
Well, there's some other things we'll talk about afterwards.
God.
A few things. We got some big news from Coach Dan Ellington, and
yes,
some pipe dream realignment news with the Conference USA. And
wait, it's not official?
It's officially pipe dream. And then the bane of my existence is we recorded the episode last week, and the very next morning, I sit down to work, and we have a tweet out about Georgia Tech getting a series scheduled in basketball, 3-game series scheduled with us. And I'm like, oh, great, we could have recorded. You got to release that information one day before, and yeah, we could have talked about it. But now we had to wait 6 days. Now it's out of everybody's minds, and I forget what I thought about it when it was all released. But
the really big news there was that you got the Georgia State Twitter to respond to your tweet about it.
yeah, we're gonna need Georgia State just to release all news on Tuesdays, so we can talk
your
about
whole cycle
it on here.
You just wanted us to wait the whole week. That's all. I mean, simple as that.
Give us plenty of time to do our homework and our research, and because that's what we're known for. We're known for all that, right?
Testing our memories.
I do not have a good memory whatsoever at all. So
I
you gotta
definitely.
live in the moment,
I feel like I drink a lot faster when we're doing these shows.
probably. But I brought a whole box, so I'm good.
Wow, you are ready.
See, that's why you don't mind the black and the color of the logo, because you drink a black box wine.
Hey, Black Box Malbec, not a sponsor, but delicious.
So you were on a different podcast or a different call before this show started, and was that box of wine opened for that call, or was it already opened?
It was already open. Yeah, no, that's the great thing about a box is it can be open for a while and you can get.
Well, I want to see how much of that box of that wine. If you're going to drink an entire box of wine between your call and the show this week. So.
Oh no! That's too much. There's like 4. I think it's 4 bottles of wine in there.
That's easy.
No, it's not. Jesus Christ.
Alcoholic. Yeah. So John, we could record on Thursday nights, but that's not a word. So, and not a day of the week. So.
Yeah, that's made up stuff. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
No, when we picked Tuesdays for a very specific reason. We started this for football season, and football games are played on Saturday most of the time, unless we have a Friday noon game, because thanks Charlie Cobb. And so Sunday I got my NFL games to watch, so I don't want to be recording this then. Monday I used to play in a bocce league on Monday nights, and so Tuesday was the first day we could record it to get enough lead time in for the following week.
And we picked 9 because we're both dads.
Yeah.
It's just easier when the kids are like already like in bed, and it's an easier sell.
Tuesdays, which actually doesn't really matter now when we record the whole thing, because we're in this limbo of no actual sports. We could record it on a Wednesday and release it on Tuesday if we wanted to.
That's true.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah. So as we wait for Brian to call in, is there anything else you guys want to talk about? Sure, we talk about this week. Well, yeah, let's talk about a little bit of the coronavirus stuff that's going on with this, everything. That's how we've led off the past several weeks, the quarantine. I saw an article that this makes sense. I didn't think about it. Oh, here we go. Brian's here. I guess it's a two episode. So here we go. Welcome. Oh, I'll say it once he's on. Welcome, Brian.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me.
Hello.
Yeah, I'm David, and I'll let Tim and Ryan introduce themselves.
I'm Ryan. Just so you know, you're already live. I don't know if he told you that, but you are.
I kind of figured as much.
And I'm Tim. I was the one messaging you on Twitter about the logos.
Yeah, good to meet you guys.
And you're already a winner in my book wearing that Brave shirt right there.
I hope you would appreciate that I dressed appropriately.
But it still looks like it's sunny there, so you're obviously not anywhere near us.
I am actually in Portland, Oregon.
Ah, all right. It's nice country out there, though. Lots of good hiking.
It is, yes, very much so.
Are you a native?
And I remember last time I went up there and I was hiking, I was offered pot I don't know how many times, and I'm like, guys, I'm on a trail in a place that I don't know, and I'm just not rocking that tonight.
It is legal here in the state of Oregon.
You don't have to continue if you don't want to. That's fine.
I mean, I'm not really a participant in the marijuana scene, but it's legal here, so
Leave it to Ryan to get us talking about pot in the very first seconds of the conversation.
Yeah, one, it was about pot, and two, I made it super weird for our guest.
I mean, I live in Portland. Everything's weird, so no big deal.
That's true. That's true.
Are you a native to Portland or the Northwest area? Is that?
No, well, sort of. I was born and raised in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I lived there until I was 15, and then my family moved up to Portland. So I've been here. I've been an Oregonian longer than I was a Californian, so I consider myself an Oregonian through and through. All my significant life events have happened here. Finished high school here, went to college here, got married here. My daughter was born here, so Oregon's home.
Yeah, you and I are very similar. I'm kind of the same boat. I'm from Memphis originally, but moved to Atlanta when I was 13 or 14. So yeah, high school here, college here, Georgia State, obviously. Married here, kids here. Yeah, so I'm definitely a Georgian more so than a Tennessean. Thank God.
No comment.
So the Brave shirt, are you a fan of the Braves, or is it you just happen to have team logos ready, team shirts ready at any time to hop on?
They are actually a client of mine, so I do some work with the Braves.
Yeah, that's actually something I wanted to talk to you about. I looked at your website, and both the Braves and the Falcons you've done some work for.
Yeah. So I'm pretty well connected within the sports design industry. I've been doing this. I've been doing design overall for about 15 years, and 10 of those have been in sports. And I've gotten to know In-Sung Kim, who's the creative director at the Braves, for the last three or so years. And he reached out to me in the winter and said, "Hey, you want to do some stuff with us this spring up to the season?" I said, "Absolutely." And kind of a similar story. I've been connected with the. I mean, it's not really fair to say the Atlanta Falcons. It's really A&B Sports and Entertainment, which is, the Arthur Blank family of businesses. So it's the Falcons, it's Atlanta United, it's the Blank Family Foundation, it's to a much, much lesser extent the Home Depot. It's also Atlanta United. So I've done work with A&BSE. Some of that has been for the Falcons directly. Some of it's been for the Blank Family Foundation. Some of it's been for other Blank Family businesses. But yeah.
So you're independent. This is all your stuff. You work for yourself and everything. So do you do everything pretty much remotely, or do you have times where you're actually flying out to Atlanta or other clients' places to talk about things, or are you?
Yes, to both of those actually. I mean, most of the time it's all remote, and the good thing about the COVID situation, I'm used to having these conversations over Zoom and Skype and things like that, and over the phone. So it's kind of familiar territory for me. But I do occasionally make the trips out to see clients. I've been on site with DC United a handful of times for various projects, just when it calls for it, or as kickoff projects to meet people. So yeah.
Well, enough about you. Let's talk about Georgia State and the Sun Belt.
Let's do it.
So the logo, I guess, was officially announced last week. But it leaked out. I don't know if you were aware of it or anything, but there was.
I was aware. Yes.
We found out through South Alabama, let some people out there that already had it on the field. So there was a lot of talk about it online and everything. And I don't know how much you know about Georgia State, or especially the Georgia State fan base, but outside of Ryan, we are all incredibly obsessed about logos and branding.
Oh yeah, I don't care. I hate this.
Well, Georgia State's success in sports is not anything to talk about a lot. So what we do talk about is what we look like on jerseys and billboards and things like that.
Well, it is a nice shade of blue.
It is a great to eye-popping blue.
It's an unusual shade of blue, believe it or not. It's not one you see a whole lot in sporting
landscape. Isn't it the exact same as Kentucky?
I think it's like one number off of Kentucky's, is what we were told at one point. But
I'd have to check that. But
it's darn close.
It's close, but in the world of Pantone colors, close is not always the same.
Right. Oh, I know.
So how did this project come about for you? So obviously the Sun Belt reached out and we're looking for some new branding or whatnot. What were their and I don't know how this whole process works. You can maybe just walk through that, but what were they asking for? I'm sure you saw their I call it the pinwheel logo. Mm-hmm. And then they did all the colors for the schools. What was the request? We want to, do away with this and use SBC, or just get creative and show us something new. What were you looking for? What were they looking for?
Well, Keith Gill, who's the commissioner of the conference, I mean, this is one of those times where I actually flew out to New Orleans and met with the
I'm
conference.
sorry about that. I apologize.
It was one day.
Nobody had to go to New Orleans.
I mean, it was my first and only time ever to New Orleans. I flew in, went to my hotel in Metairie, then went out to the Sunbelt office in the morning, met with people, went straight back to the airport. So it's
you were able to get it right. You did it the right way.
You're being assaulted, so I think it's a win in your book. You definitely put that one down on your resume, surviving New Orleans.
You can tell people you've been there, and you don't have to have actually experienced it. So that's a win.
There you go. So, but anyway, when I went out there to meet with Keith Gill and other members of the conference, the big thing that he was really looking for, and his biggest concern, and I mean, issue is not really the right word, but the thing that bothered him the most about the pinwheel was just how the existing lockup really created visibility issues, particularly on uniforms. So it was, if you looked at it from a distance, you couldn't read the text very well because it was really small.
Mm-hmm.
The pinwheel on its own didn't work because it was too close to Sunbelt Rentals and some other, it just didn't have any sort of cache to itself. So he was looking for something that would really just stand out and be able to say Sunbelt Conference on its own, without it having to be explained, and something that they could just really maximize that space on a jersey or on a court or anything like that. As far as, I know people are all hot to trot about, the fact that we've gone to the acronym, the SBC versus, Sunbelt spelled out. There was a lot of back and forth between people inside, and when it came down to it, we kind of really wanted to follow the convention of other Power 5 and FBS conferences. Every single patch on a uniform is either a monogram or an abbreviation.
Right.
For every other conference, it's not like you see Mountain West spelled out, it's MW.
Right.
And nobody calls it the MW. Everybody says it's Mountain West. So that was kind of one of the things that I pointed out to them. It's like, you can put SBC on there. Everybody's still going to call it Sunbelt because SBC is a little clunky to say, and everybody knows it's the Sunbelt. It's just
we're all set in our ways anyway.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
So I guess one of the issues that came out, and I have no problem calling it SBC. Like you said, it doesn't flow off the tongue like SEC does, but it does gives that impression that Sunbelt is trying to emulate the SEC with being SBC.
Um,
Can we start a chant? Can we, at the end of every game, can we like SBC?
For those people who are complaining about the SEC, I'd like to point out to them that the Securities and Exchange Commission existed long before the Southeastern Conference did. So, a little bit of pot calling the kettle black.
Yeah, you walk down Wall Street, everyone's going to lunch and shouting SEC all the time.
But I don't expect anybody to start calling the conference the SBC. But at the same time, like, we looked at a lot of documents, we looked at articles on ESPN, and people were already doing that, either informally or colloquially. So it's not like it wasn't already in the lexicon. So
one thing I never knew is whether or not we were supposed to put the space between sun and belt. Like, they would always capitalize the S and the B, but you would see it sometimes written with a space between the two and sometimes as one word. I never knew which way was the right way to do it. So at least this way, just, save your fingers some time and just SBC.
There's no space though, right? Isn't that right?
There's no space? There is a space. It is 2 words, Sun Belt.
I never can figure it out.
Exactly.
I kind of felt like the 2013 logos, the pinwheels, were actually trying to emulate the SEC with a circle. And, like, you can't see it from far away, so you might tune into a game, you think, oh, I'm watching an SEC team. And it's, well, the SBC.
I feel like they were trying to emulate the push-up panther that you can't see from 10 feet away.
Well, you have the blue and black push-up panther, that's for sure.
Yeah. I don't know.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I don't know if Brian's seen that, but we have like a GSU logo with our, like, Zool logo on top of it, and it's, like, blurry from anywhere closer than, like, here.
I have seen that. That is officially retired, by the way.
Yeah. Yes.
But no, I mean, if anything, the SEC was the furthest thing that from our minds. Like, that was early on a very distinctive conversation. Like, everybody's going to say we're trying to pull, rank with the SEC. That's bullshit. Really, if we were to say we were trying to emulate anyone, it's the ACC and the Big Ten. Right. Those are really who we were looking at as much closer examples to what we were trying to achieve in terms of a mark. And you look again, looking at the landscape of the FBS conference mark identity world, it's type driven. So we talked a lot about, featuring the sun more prominently, the text more prominently. It's really that short abbreviation and all in the text. So that's really where, the concept came from and where the driving force behind the design came from.
Now, was there ever talk about doing like a wrestling belt with a big sunburst right in the dead center of it, like going right across the SBC letters?
No, not that. But I did draw on a napkin at a restaurant in New Orleans, a little illustrated Sunbelt guy doing a superhero pose like that with sunglasses on. So
I will pay you.
And he was wearing a belt.
I will pay you ones of dollars for that napkin.
That is at the Sunbelt office in New Orleans. I do not have that napkin.
Then it's lost. It's just gone as far as I'm concerned.
So did you use a
fan of New Orleans
for SBC, or did you create something like is it just its own graphic?
That is a completely custom typeface that I developed specifically for the Sunbelt Conference. And that was actually the first piece of the identity that we built, was the typeface. Because we knew it was going to be such a type-driven logo. We wanted to have that solution figured out prior to anything else so that we could kind of get that conversation out of the way. Because a lot of times what happens when you get into these processes is, you get the mix and match kind of thing. So I like this icon with this text. Can we see what those two look like? And it's like, we're short on time, so let's try and just one thing at a time. Let's figure out the type, and we'll get the type designed and knocked out and buttoned up. And then when we're going through all the iterations of the icon and the lockup and everything, we're not trying to mix and match different typefaces in different formats. We already have one thing figured out.
Excellent. So I guess you kind of maybe just answer this question I was going to ask, but my question was going to be, was there, what we're seeing now, was that pretty much what was just handed over to the Sunbelt, or were there several different variations? Like I made 6 different things. Which do you like? And then we'll tinker from there type. Is that how it worked, or?
Yeah. There were a lot of different options that were presented. It's never usually ever just like a designer will come up with it. And, the old Paul Rand, Saul Bass, legend story, where he drew the Exxon logo on a napkin and handed it to the CEO of Exxon and said, "Pay me $1 million." That doesn't happen. That's not a thing. So we designed, I don't even know how many different versions of this existed, but yeah, each one of them was designed, was mocked up on uniforms and fields, and put into all the different school colors just to test out the color schemes to make sure that the designs would work with all of that. In the end, we were down to, I want to say, 5 or 6 different contenders that got whittled down to kind of 2 finalists, and then ultimately the one that is now live.
Excellent. So sorry, Tim, Ryan, jump in whenever you got a question, but I'm just going to keep going until you say something ahead of me. So having the colors for all the different universities is a pretty unique thing for a conference. You typically don't see, or I don't know of any other conference that kind of does all the team colors with that same logo. Was that a request from the very beginning? They wanted to keep that from the whole pinwheel days, or was that just something that, if it's a nice to have type thing?
No, that was definitely a requirement as part of the whole process. And that's actually pretty standard procedure for all the conferences. If you look at the Pac-12, every school has their combination. My Oregon Ducks have their green and yellow version of the Pac-12 shield. Utah has it in red, black, and white. You look at the Big Ten, that big 1-0 is, or the big 1G, depending on how you see it. Every school has their different color version of that. Same with the ACC.
I had no idea.
Yeah,
we all sort of thought
I'm laser focused on to Georgia State and don't pay attention to anybody else. Who would have thought?
No, that is a pretty standard operating procedure.
Did you go to Oregon Georgia State game a few years ago?
I did not. No, when was that game?
What was that, like 3 years ago?
Yeah, everything feels like 3 years. No, that was still the FCS days, or was it FBS days? It was.
No, it wasn't that long. You know what?
Australia. It's when you. Do you remember when you were in Australia, Ryan?
No, because that was that would have been Wisconsin, I think. I did a whole week in I did Eugene or I did Portland, and then I did Seattle, and then I did Eugene. So I like made that a whole trip. That was not my that was not the Australia trip.
2015, Ryan. That's when it was. A couple years ago.
So I would have just been moving back from Seattle after working for the University of Washington football team, and that would have been right before and right after my daughter was born. So there was no way in hell I was going to a college football game with a newborn.
Did we play Washington right around then, or Washington State?
Washington was when I was coming back from Australia.
That's the one I'm thinking of.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
You know, all the schools in the Northwest, they're all the same to us down here. So
Yep.
That's okay. All the schools down there are the same to us.
You mean like good at football? Just kidding. Sorry.
So
It's all good. It's all good. All good, John.
Talking about.
I mean, it's okay. I get people asking me. I tell them I go to Oregon. They're like, "Is that the Beavers or the Ducks?" I'm like, "Oh."
Nike.
They're both with Nike. They're both Nike schools.
I mean, Nike is the superior logos in my opinion to any of the other ones. I've enjoyed, as far as Georgia State goes, our Adidas merchandise is my favorite, but Nike has like the most quality like logos and designs in my opinion. I thought maybe you'd have an opinion too, designer guy. Come on, man. Help me out here.
Whoever signs the paychecks have the best branding, I'm sure.
He's not allowed to have an opinion. I
work with too many people in too many industries to comment on that. And
fair enough.
Yeah,
but we can all agree Maryland's Under Armour stuff is garbage, right? Just Maryland's. Under Armour's fine, but just Maryland.
All right, so Ryan, don't make me mute you. So Brian, back to the university colors and the logos. Apparently, I'm way off base on that part of it. But there was one thing that was very unique about Georgia State, and was that there was 6 different options shown of the branding colors, but Georgia State only had 3. Every other school had 6.
Right.
And I'm assuming, you kind of answered this question to Tim on Twitter already. I just want to talk about it here a little bit. That's basically because Georgia State's one of their primary colors is white, and you just can't do a lot with white.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, we knew we went back and forth with this a lot on Georgia State. Georgia State's official colors are blue, white, and red. But the red is only ever used as an accent color. It's really in the entire brand only ever seen as the underline and the word state on the stacked mark.
Yeah,
so
right here.
It's not really part of their brand. But at the same time, like, they wear gray uniforms, they wear black uniforms. They don't ever wear red uniforms. So it's either blue, white, black, or gray is whatever you see on the field with them. So for a long time, going back and forth, the powers that be at the conference, they wanted everybody to have kind of things be all fair and equal and equitable between all 12 schools, 14 if you count the associate members. We wanted to give everybody a 3-color option with their logo, so white and their 2 school colors, and then, or their 2 primary school colors. Coastal Carolina provided a little bit of another challenge in that. Just because they have black, teal, and bronze, I think is what
the best color combination ever, right? Like that's.
I think it's a cool color combination personally. I think
you like that?
Really well, but I do, yeah. The teal field's a little much, but
the teal field is a little much.
But at the same time, like, so we kind of with them, that was another challenge. It's like, do we do teal and black? Do we do teal and bronze? Do we do bronze and black? So that was another one that was really tricky to figure out. But coming back to Georgia State, we looked at blue and red as their 3-color design, and then obviously just the blue and white option for their 2-color option. We wanted to give every school a 2-color option so that they could have a little bit more of a reduced look on things. App State was one of the first schools we did a lot with, and they have the white outline with the yellow top and the black bottom, which looks great on white. It looks great on yellow. On black, it's okay. The 2-color, the yellow outline with the black interior just looks sexy as hell. And the same on the yellow, that looks great. So that was when we did those versions, we were like, why don't we just give schools both options, a 3-color and a 2-color. But when we came to Georgia State, we're like, the blue and white is perfect. What the hell do we do for the 3-color? And
Right.
we were like, blue over red, red over blue, blue over black, gray and blue. And each one of those ones, I kept coming back to every time they would ask me for that. I was like, this is just not right. Their brand, blue and white, it's blue and white only. So
I feel like we should round of applause that a little bit.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, because we've been pushing so hard for just blue and white. The pinwheel thing we had blue and black in the logo, and which you already talked about, the push-up panther when blue and black would just look like a smudge and you couldn't see anything on it.
Right.
And black is not a primary color. I mean, we do have uniforms that are black, but it's not really a Georgia State color. It's the blue, white, and that red accent. So.
Yeah. Well, the black used to be part of the color palette before the 15 rebrand. It was in the color palette. So when the pinwheel came out in 13, blue and black made sense. But when you guys dropped black out of the color palette, it ceased to make sense, but the logo didn't get updated. So that again, when we were doing that, I kind of, they were talking about, what do we do? We don't want Georgia State to be the only school with just those 3 options. Like, but what's wrong with that? Realistically, what's wrong with that?
We're all hats
But,
off.
I mean, you kept saying gray, but like, could we have anthracite?
Talk to Under Armour. That's
Ryan.
I mean, sure.
I just like, where's the anthracite?
That's a
Nike.
That's an old thing. It's an old thing. We don't want anything anthracite.
He knew about the push-up panther, so I thought he might know about anthracite too. It seems like he did his research,
Well, I actually worked at Nike for a year as a contractor in 2012 to 13, and working in the football category. So we did a lot of anthracite uniforms then.
We were one of them, I think.
Yeah, there's some stuff that's kind of proprietary. I can't really talk about
that's
how
fair.
that works, but yeah, the anthracite was a very popular color then, and came a lot of times at the request of the schools, not so much as Nike pushing that. So
I buy that.
So since we had the pinwheel thing was just 5 years old, in your experience, is it common to just change everything 5 years later, or you tend to want to, I would think you'd want to have some tradition and stick with something and have it last for several years before you just rechange everything. I don't know.
It's a little older than that. It was actually, it came out in 2013, so it's 7 years old, not 5 years old.
But even then, we're over here where we have a 25-year-old stadium that we demolish and everyone's up in arms that it didn't last longer than 25 years. A logo, I guess, it's pretty much easier to change in the stadium, but still, it seems awfully quick to rebrand completely.
There's any number of reasons. 1 year might be an appropriate time to change a brand. I think, Keith Gill's reasonings for wanting to change the logo made a lot of sense. You look at the new TV deal that the Sun Belt Conference has signed with ESPN. Now the conference is going to have a lot more brand presence and a lot more prominence in the college football landscape on TV and exposure. And you want to have that brand recognition, that conference recognition, along with anybody else like the ACC or the Big or the Pac-12 or anything like that. To that extent, the Pac-10 had that the new logo came out, and then a year later became the Pac-12, so they had to redo everything. So
I knew all that kind of stuff. I just wanted you to say it for everybody else.
I mean, there's any number of reasons why a rebrand might be appropriate. New commissioners come in, just like a new athletic director might come in for a particular school and want to put their own stamp on the program. It happens in the corporate world all the time. You get bought out, you get merged, you get a new CEO, something happens, you want to have a new brand position, you want to do all sorts of different reasons. So the longevity of it's not really too much of a factor. I mean, yes, there's an expense and kind of an overhaul that takes place, but also at the same time, the conference did a lot of their due diligence ahead of time. They knew a lot of teams were getting new uniforms this year. They knew a lot of teams were getting new turf. So they were pretty cognizant about the impact it would have on schools. And one thing that didn't really get too far out, we did an interview with sportslogos.net, Keith Gill and I did. And one of the things he talked about was the fact that for this rollout, given the situation with the pandemic, they are being really loose with schools and member institutions to allow them to roll it out on a slower basis than they ordinarily would to offset the financial impact, because their understanding of what's going on.
Gotcha. How long does a project like this typically take? I'm not asking, not specifics, but is this something you knock out over a weekend, or is this something that takes years to figure out?
Everyone is different. But this one in particular, we kicked off in October of last year. So it's been 7 months in the works. We're still working on it. We don't have everything wrapped up. We launched the full brand, but there are components that we're still building out for the conference that's going to come out here in the next few weeks and months, and there's more to do. So there's overall, when you're talking about a rebrand of this magnitude and this prominence, it's 6 months usually at a minimum to up to a year to sometimes even 2 years.
Right. Wow. So when you were working with the conference and the schools, were you working with each individual university, like in communication with them directly, or was it all being siphoned through the conference?
It was all going through the conference. And realistically,
I was just thinking that had to have been a nightmare. I'm just thinking I don't do design work or whatever. I do work with clients, and I'm like, if I had to have 13, 14 different individual departments all telling me what they wanted in their variation, that'd be a nightmare.
It wasn't. The good thing was they understood when it was presented to them via the conference that we considered them when we were building this. So they knew that we had their best interest in mind when it came to, the optics of how their colors and their brands would be represented within the conference itself. And that was something that we worked really hard to convey. And I mean, there's a lot of truth to that. We really did care about how the schools would look in the conference mark. So, there was a little bit of back and forth on, just trying to see some different combinations, but at the end of the day, it was really flipping colors. As far as the marks themselves went, that was really the conference kind of went to the member institution and said, this is our new brand. So this is what we're rolling out with. Now you guys can have a say in how it's colored to your institution, but this is what we're doing.
Gotcha. That's interesting.
You're active on Twitter, and so you're probably getting lots of pings from fans like me and other fans of other schools. Have there been any schools that have really pinged you a lot about the logo? And
Georgia Southern's really mad.
Really?
Georgia Southern is really
hey man,
mad.
You did a good job. I think you did a wonderful job.
Southern is really upset that they decided to include gray in their mark, but.
Did you tell them it's because that's the color of beautiful Eagle Creek?
I did not. I just, it's in their brand standards. They have navy, gray, and gold in their brand. For their 3-color mark, they wanted the gray. We gave them the option of just the all navy.
Let's echo that real quick. They wanted the gray. The Georgia Southern administration wanted the gray. Therefore, all those fans upset about it can stop harassing Brian over here and can go right back to their administration. So if you've upset a Georgia Southern fan, you've either done something right in the world or just gone about your day. They get upset about everything.
Yeah. They seem to be the most upset of anybody, the most vocal.
Let me tell you about Statesboro, Georgia. There is nothing to do there. I say that we're obsessed about logos and branding, though they literally have nothing else going on in their lives. So this is all they've got. This is all they have.
And circling back to those 2013 logos, they got the logo right for their school. We got our logo wrong. So this is kind of the righting of the wrongs for us.
Yes.
Well, and the silly thing is that, for all the people that were upset that gray was in the mark, they still have the navy and white only option.
Right.
That's the thing. They have that. It's still there. So,
don't use it.
But they could ignore 3 and be as cool as us having our 3,
There's too many choices for them.
The
Overwhelming.
thing is, if you would have given us that logo with the wrong colors, we would have been upset too. So we're just proud of our, institution for being like, no, we've done this already. We don't need this.
We did it wrong one time. We won't do it wrong 2 times.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And as far as I go, I just fulfill the requests of the clients.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah. You're just the hired labor getting everything done. Well,
I just work here.
Yeah, I make my recommendations. Georgia State was one of them that I fought pretty hard to have it be blue and white only. That was definitely one. But even Georgia Southern, I was looking at that and I was like, they got gray uniforms. They have gold uniforms. I was like, what do they want to do here?
yeah.
I mean, the core brand. To the Georgia Southern fans out there who are upset, I looked at it and their core brand really is blue and white, and I get that. But at the same time, like, if your brand's really blue and white, what are you doing with all these other uniforms and all these other color combinations? So
they do listen. That's our second biggest listenership is people from Statesboro. So
obviously in Atlanta, and we can see where our listeners come from. And our second biggest, I use the term city lightly. The second biggest area where listeners come from is down in Statesboro, Georgia. So they do listen because, like I said, they have nothing better to do with their lives than focus on everybody's life is so much better than theirs, which is literally everybody. So
I'm signing off of this podcast right now. He's like, oh crap.
They're going to be.
If anybody who's actually watching this live on Facebook has a question, like, I'm happy to answer them.
Yeah. Anybody out there has a question, let's let Brian. Unless Tim or Ryan have a question about the Sunbelt logo, I have a few questions about. I just want to pick Brian's brain about some Georgia State logo stuff.
Sure.
I just had a comment real quick. I mean, I think I told you, Brian, when I first saw the logos, I was just kind of lukewarm at best. But then once I saw there's some Twitter post, maybe the sports logos, they had it on our jersey. Like, that flipped it for me as far as
that came for me.
Way more readable, way more readable than the previous pinwheel thing. Like, you can see it, it's clear, and it looks crisp. I like it.
Thank you. It's amazing how seeing things in context and not just on a page or on a mock-up or anything like that really makes a huge difference.
Yeah, to your point, Tim, one of the things that really got me about the seeing it on the jersey is, like, we're big fans. I think all three of us are really big fans of the all blue or the all white jerseys, and it kind of gives you a chance to, like, not have something stand out with a big different color on it. It kind of fits along with that all blue, all white look and everything. I guess really all blue look for the most part. But yeah, I agree. Once seeing on the jersey definitely put in a whole different light for me as well. But Brian, what I wanted to ask you was, so you've obviously looked at Georgia State's branding over at least the past few years and everything. What is your professional take on the what we call the push-up panther, which I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. We talked about it earlier, and then just having that panther head as a logo between those two, because there's some pretty strong feelings on our sides.
I mean, I think the push-up panther is a little busy for my take. I want to say that it was TJ Harley who designed that logo. He's a local Atlanta guy, and I know TJ and I like TJ a lot, but so no disrespect to him on that. For me, I think the text and the way the panther, Panthers are tough. There's so many Panthers out there. And to do a Panther that's unique is a challenge unto itself. So I know he had a Herculean task when he designed that one in the first place. But for me, I think the Panther head is a much more successful mark to itself. I like seeing it used on its own. I don't love the new version where the logo is just kind of floating above the Georgia State text.
Yeah, that's been a big thing for me as well, is that word mark. They want the Panther head to be known, but they want you to know where it came from. So they want the Panther head and the word mark. Like, the best way to get that logo known is just to have that big Panther head, no context out there, and let people figure out that's what it is. Because I think I'm a big fan of that Panther head. And then, no disrespect to the guy you said about doing the push-up Panther as well. To be fair, I'm pretty sure he probably submitted a dozen really awesome Panther looks, and the administration we had at the time is incapable of doing anything right? So
It was messed up for a long time. You have no idea, man. We just had a really bad athletic department for a long time.
the funny thing about it is that panther head was right there the entire time. That panther was right there on the body of that push-up panther. And how we not just accept that as being the logo is beyond my I don't know.
Well, I will say for the push-up panther, I do like that everything is contained. The text and I mean the push-up paws, as you call them, do frame the text nicely and provide a foundation for that word mark. So from an identification standpoint, an education standpoint, particularly because you guys are a school that has gone from and made the jump from SES to FBS fairly recently. So there's an education factor that goes along with that. So, you look at brands as they evolve over time. Nike is a great example of this. For the longest time, when Nike launched in 1972, every time you saw the swoosh, it had the word Nike next to it and kind of overlapping it. It wasn't until the 90s, the late 90s, that Nike started dropping that and going to only the swoosh. So you're talking about 20 plus years of brand education and consumer recognition before they could feel comfortable dropping the Nike text to just the swoosh. And the thing is, everybody talks about, we want something as iconic as the swoosh. We want something as iconic as the swoosh. The swoosh didn't get to be iconic until it became such. So, and it took a lot of marketing. It took a lot of athlete relationships. And it took a lot of on-field success for it to become iconic. So the thing about the Panther head, to kind of bring this back around, is that it's going to be a matter of time and a matter of patience. So I think the athletic department has a good assessment of the fact that putting the Panther head with the Georgia State word mark is smart and probably necessary for the foreseeable future in the short term, just simply because, again, how many Panthers can you think of? There's Northern Iowa, there's you guys, there's Pitt.
Northern Iowa was the first one that comes to my mind. Yeah.
FIU.
FIU is another one. There's
Carolina, which is not NCAA, but still Panthers.
There's the Florida Panthers. Even in South Florida, you have two Panthers, two Panther mascots. So it's a really widely used, it's a really common mascot. I did a Panther brand for the indoor football league myself, and we ran across the same sort of thing. It's like, how do we make our Panther different from all these other Panthers that are out there? I mean, there's Eastern Illinois and lots of directional schools and small schools out there, but Panthers, Wildcats, and Tigers, they're the most common mascots in the NCAA landscape. So you got to do something to help your version of the Panther stand out. And the other thing too is there are a lot of Panthers with blue in the color scheme. So if you have just a blue Panther, it's not unreasonable for people to look at your Panther and go, is that Pitt?
Right.
Yeah.
So what you're really trying to say is they're trying to train us for like 20 years and then move.
Well, to that point though, but also the 70s were a way different decade than the 2010s, the 2020s are, because you didn't have as much stuff just being shoved down your eyeballs everywhere you go like you do nowadays. So yeah, I can totally understand why you had to put Nike with the swoosh back then to get that in your head. But now when you're looking at a football game and you have that Panther head logo and you see that it's Georgia State versus whoever, Tennessee, then you know who that is. So, but yeah, I get your point. And I know that's where they're coming from, but I guess my problem with it from our side of things is that's great. You want to have that, but also give us that Panther head option as well as a merchandise buyer. I want that T-shirt, that hat, and they've come around. There, you can now get shirts and hats and stuff that just
maybe a shirt.
But you couldn't for years. You could not for years.
Well, but the education component, because of the consumption of mass media and the rise of social media, is making that education timeline way more condensed. So it's not going to take 25 years to do that. You're obviously already seeing that now come to fruition in 5 years. So, I mean, the timeline is way more condensed for that sort of thing now.
We do have a question from Facebook from our intern, John Weaver. I think you kind of touched on this already, but he did ask how many iterations of the logo, the Sunbelt logo, did y'all present to the conference, or did you present to the conference?
I have no idea.
Too many.
Too many to count. Upwards of 50 at least.
Wow. I was not expecting that. I was going to say like a dozen or two or something.
Yeah.
Not 50. Wow. I see.
Yeah, no, I mean, not all of them were anywhere near as polished as the finished one. So, and they're in different states of completion. But yeah, when you ideate on this sort of thing, that's what we call it in our fancy design terms, is ideation, which cracks me up that we use such BS terms like that. Concepting is the other term for it. When you're ideating or concepting, like, yeah, you go through a lot of different, formats. A lot of them are really similar ideas, just with little minor tweaks.
Yeah, let's chop off the edges or make them jagged or yeah.
Exactly. This one's straight. This one's slanted. This one's slanted and up. It's those are three different versions, but really all playing on the same concept. So there are fewer concepts, but a lot more iterations.
So when you do something like this, when you send this, let's just say 50 submissions in, whatever, you pretty much have a good idea. It's probably going to be one of these half dozen they're probably going to go with, but I assume you get surprised every once in a while.
Yeah, I mean, I try to kind of keep myself out of, this is what I want people to go for, what I hope they'll go for, because, what I want and what the conference want or what the client wants, or if it's a team, don't always line up. I can always advocate for what I think is the best option and what I think is the strongest choice. But, at the end of the day, I'm not the decision maker. But what I do typically as part of these processes is I'll go through a bunch of iterations, and there's a lot that never ever gets put in front of the client. I've come to find that usually if there's an option you don't like, that's the one the client will pick. So I try and kind of narrow it down to kind of anywhere from 3 to 6 choices for them to kind of see. And I'll really polish those 3 to 6 options as to what could be a final design. Obviously barring client feedback and requests for those sorts of things. But I'll also build them out. I never ever show a client a design on just a white background, because you never see a logo in a white background. You never see the Braves on just white.
Wait. The Braves famously have like a white uniform.
Yes, but do you see the A logo on said white uniform?
Oh, I don't know. I don't watch baseball.
Exactly. So, anyway, you see.
But
the
I
Braves,
knew enough to know they have a white.
They do, but it has piping around the collar that's both navy and red, so it's not just white.
Be professional, you.
He knows what he's doing.
So anyway, I'll put the logo in a lot of different mock-ups. So for the Sun Belt, I put it on stationery, on the website, on business cards, mocked it up on what it looked like in an interstitial on ESPN, like on a transition wipe, during a live game feed. I mocked it up on their social media channels, and obviously on team uniforms and fields and courts. So again, that's another reason why I try and limit the number of options I show, because all of that mock-up stuff is really difficult and time consuming. So to do it for 80 different logos is not really practical. Yeah.
Right. So was there for the conference, how quickly did you guys align on the SBC with the sunburst in the middle? Was there a secondary concept that they were considering that they liked and they weren't sure which way to go, or is it pretty quickly to align on what it is today?
They were fairly quick to jump onto that one. There was another variant that was in kind of a little pill shape that was vaguely designed off of the geography of the conference. So I kind of mapped out, from Texas to the Carolinas, what the conference landscape looked like, and I drew a box over that. And that was kind of the base for the form of that holding shape. So that was another one they liked, but at the end of the day, they gravitated to this one pretty quickly. The only other real contender was a version that said, it was actually Sun Belt spelled out, and it had a little sunburst element that was going through the text, just as another option. But they really didn't ever gravitate towards that.
Yeah, having not seen it, I think that still what they landed on is a lot better. I'm cool with the SBC. I like that better, even if it is more difficult to say or whatever.
Well, if you look at the brand guidelines that the conference released, or you look at the Spark page and you look at the full family of marks, the SBC on its own is rarely going to be the mark that you see off of a uniform or a field. Usually it's either going to be the SBC with the text Sunbelt Conference underneath it, or it's going to be that we have a stacked version that's got the SBC and then Sunbelt Conference underneath in a word mark, or just the word mark that says Sunbelt Conference. So we wanted to give them that flexibility to be able to still have that recognition of what the conference is, and not limit them to just being SBC, so that they could maintain being called the Sun Belt or the Fun Belt.
Right. Whoa. Come on, man. You were doing so well.
Had to throw that in there somewhere.
Hashtag Fun Belt.
You got a design that was Fun
What do
Belt.
you think, this is a circus or something?
No, I think it's fun. You guys have fun teams to watch.
Really? Ratings say otherwise.
No.
Like the concept that was Fun Belt, just to like throw it in there and slide it as a potential design.
No, we
didn't get an FBC logo.
The conference was actually pretty okay with embracing the Fun Belt moniker.
Oh,
Just,
we know.
Of course they were, because they have no idea what they're doing.
I think I think the previous administration in the Sunbelt Conference might be more worthy of that commentary than the folks that are in there now.
That's fair.
That's fair.
My conversations with Keith Yell, he's a really smart guy, and he's got a lot on the ball and really understands a lot about kind of just how things should be. And I know at the end of the day, he really just wants to elevate the prominence of the conference and have it be taken more seriously. And the visual identity was a component of that. He wanted to, they wanted people to take the Sun Belt as big boy sports in big boy college landscape, and he wanted a big boy look to go with that.
Excellent. I agree.
That's fair. Yep.
Tim and Ryan, do you guys have any more questions at all for Brian?
I hate logos a lot, so
I got one closing question I want to ask him before we let him go. Maybe a couple of small itty boons afterwards. But what do you think of our State of Atlanta logo here? You think it's pretty sharp?
Good question.
It's good. It's to the point. It's a little on the nose, but at the same time, like for a podcast that's Georgia State based, you got the nice underline, which is a great tie to the Georgia State mark without infringing on its copyright.
Exactly.
You've got the microphone that takes the place of the O, so it's clear what it does, and it's clean and clear.
Go Ken.
Actually, I gave my wife the inspiration, and she's not a designer. She's a IT programmer or whatever, but she's a crafter, and so I gave her.
She's got an eye for it, for sure.
So So thanks, Brian, for coming on and talking to us about all of this. I really appreciate it. I think we learned a lot about the whole thing, and knowing that whether you're a Braves fan or not, you own a Braves shirt makes you feel better about the whole thing.
Well, I'm a Braves fan now. I've got my Braves hat over with my collection as well. And,
they're America's team, so.
Oh man, I remember watching those '90s Braves teams, and how they only won World Series is just beyond me, because they dominated.
You were not,
also, but I mean, the only thing on TV for a long time on that.
Yeah, I mean, turn on TBS after school, and there was the Braves. So, and I've had the good fortune to take in a game at SunTrust. Truist now.
Yeah.
But it's a gorgeous ballpark, and I absolutely love it.
Well, if you're ever in Atlanta again, hit us up. I'd love to go to a Braves game with you if you're in town for some college. I mean, assuming we're ever allowed to go to a sporting event again, hit us up if you're in town for a Georgia State event. We'll we are known for having the best tailgates at Georgia State, which is still not saying a whole lot.
No, come on, we have some really darn good tailgates. I don't know if you can say the other thing on Apple, but whatever.
Okay. Yeah.
That's awesome. And if you guys are out here, look me up.
We'll do. Thanks a lot, Brian. Really appreciate it, man.
Cheers, man.
Thanks for having me.
Yep. Now the question, there we go. I was like, now the question is, does he leave or do I kick him out? All right. Well, that was good. That was a good time. I enjoyed that. It was a lot of fun. He's a good guest to have on.
He's a nice guy.
Yeah, yeah. Do you guys want to go ahead and finish off the topics we have for the rest of the night, or you guys need a little break before we move on?
Whatever you want to do. Would we jump back on to Facebook, or are we just gonna stay on Facebook?
We'll keep it going live. I say one person can take off at a time. The other two can chit chat while we let
I
people.
should check on my family. There's been some weird stuff going on.
All right. Tim and I will chat about you while you're gone.
Talk about logos while you're gone. How about that? Oh, he's gone.
Yeah, so that was pretty good. What do you think?
Yeah, he's a sharp guy. I was gonna give him a compliment. Talking about design stuff. In one of my previous employment roles, I worked in digital signage, and I worked with designers all day because they had to make digital content for digital menu boards. Digital menu boards you see everywhere, and designers can be absolute divas about what goes up on the screen. So, for him to like swallow it and just say, listen, they want this, I like that, but they're giving me money, I'm going to do that. Right.
Yeah,
like,
I've got a few friends that are graphic designer and artist. And yeah, I've seen the same thing. And what's that?
They're passionate.
They're very passionate, and a lot of them get really set in their ways, and once they have their decision on what they think is the best thing, then anybody that disagrees with them is wrong. But
yep,
you're the vendor, not the client. The client.
Yeah, I don't think for the rebranding of the Sun Belt. I mean, they probably had a project manager at the Sun Belt office that talked to all the member institutions and got their blessing on everything. Instead of having him talk to every school himself, right?
Yeah.
Succumb to that torture. They had someone.
That was an absolute nightmare to talk to everybody. Yeah, that's ridiculous. So yeah, no, he was cool. I thoroughly enjoyed talking to him. If I thought he had any interest in talking about a Georgia Tech basketball series coming up for the next 3 years, I would have asked him to stick around, but I don't think that he has that much of an interest in it.
I wanted to ask him, like, what would you do with our on the top? What would you do with our logo now? What would you change?
Well, you should have spoke up.
I know. Yeah. I mean, he talked about that, right?
Yes, he did. Yeah, and he said, although he understands it, he likes the Panther head by itself better. So that means that he justified my own beliefs. So he's obviously right.
Well, I think what he's trying to say is that we need to have a signature win every year. So this year we need to beat Alabama to make our brand more recognizable. I mean, Tennessee gave us a lot of brand recognition. Well, you go beat another P5 school, upper echelon, top 25 team.
And we'll get into this a little bit later on, but I was reading on a message board thread, and they were talking about this whole like potential realignments, which is all not going to happen, but they're talking about it. And they're talking about like the teams from the Sun Belt that need to start moving up. And of course they mentioned Appalachian State and Georgia Southern because their history, and
right.
Maybe Louisiana, Lafayette, I forget. They said, and now Georgia State too. And I know that and now Georgia State too is simply because of that Tennessee win, and maybe the basketball tournament spots, but it was a football conversation. So I'm gonna say because that Tennessee win, that win in itself got people to be like, all right, well, they're not a bunch of stumbling morons.
No. And, I mean, for us, it's geography. Atlanta's an attractive market, not just media market, but just market period. The area, it's attractive to students. It's attractive to companies. Like, we have a good opportunity to build something from the ground up. Very difficult to do, but we can do it. And, we're trying to do that. We're trying to get our brand together, which is one of the first things you have to do with any like new company or rebranding of a company. And, then you got to start getting those signature wins and beating the big guys and putting butts in the seats. And then before you know it, you're UCF.
Well, exactly. Well, like they say about starting a new business, it's all location, location, location. So Atlanta, yeah, it's a media market for sure, but we have the world's busiest airport. I mean, there's, no city in the world, the country, the world is easy to get to or easier to get to than Atlanta. Sure, there's New York and there's LA, but Atlanta is just as easy to get to as any city in the country, any country in the world, or in that whatever to the world.
Any city, yeah.
So you can get to Atlanta from anywhere. You don't have to travel to some old school 100-year-old college town out in the mountains or in some weird area, you can fly in, you're easy to get to. So that's immediately attractive. Then you have the Georgia recruiting market. Every school, wherever they originate from, they want to recruit the Georgia media market. Right. So you've got that. So yeah, the location, whether or not we're winning or losing, the market for not just TV, but for everything else is very attractive. And then when you start getting some signature wins, people start taking notes. All right, Tim, do you need to take a little quick break before we move on?
Yeah.
All right.
I'll just leave it though.
Oh, what were you guys doing? Talking about logos again?
Maybe.
Don't you think our fans are sick of that?
No.
No.
I think we have 4 people watching this, and I think 2 are you and Tim. So
yeah, I know, but other people will. And I do want to point out, and I meant to point it out earlier, that John made a very good point that Jaguars just look like dumb Panthers.
Oh yeah, well I think a Jaguar is a Panther.
I think it is too. Yeah.
Pretty much.
Like cougars are Panthers, right?
It's like any large cat in the at least in the southeast, like mountain lions and whatever, are all Panthers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because there is no such thing as a panther. There is no.
Yeah, it's a Panthera. It's like it's like a family of cats.
A mythical creature.
That was fast, Tim. That was super fast.
It's behind me right here.
Excellent. All right. Well, you guys talk amongst yourselves for a quick minute, and I'll be back, and we will talk about Georgia State, Georgia Tech basketball. We'll talk about realignment. We'll talk about Coach Dan Ellington.
Oh yeah. All right.
We can't talk about anything while he's gone.
No, Tim, what have you been up to, man?
Hiding from COVID. At least trying to, you know.
No, I've been cheating. We went and saw like friends of the family and like had our kids play with each other in a pool and had some beer and pizza, and we just said, screw it.
Exposure event done.
We were like, man, our family can't take this anymore.
Yeah, we've had some friends that wanted to hang out, and they have like a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
And we're like, how are you going to keep your 3-year-old from coming over to us?
You can't. That's the thing. Yeah, 4-year-old too, which is what I have. They just don't understand, and so like, you just gotta. That's a decision you have to make.
Yeah, they got it. I mean, they're like, well, we'll get a leash. I'm like, don't be leash parents, please. Don't
be leash parents.
Yeah, no, you can't do that to a kid.
Yeah, we put them all in a pool and figured it was like the wrong thing to do, but whatever, it was hot. And then they're also in a cul-de-sac, so they're like riding bikes around in the cul-de-sac and stuff. But my kid just needs somebody other than, me and mom.
Sure, totally get that.
I can appreciate that. My kids are in the exact same boat. They're tired of seeing us.
Yep. We could probably figure something out too, maybe offline, but.
Yeah. So John just made a good comment. Brian, this to your point, Ryan. Brian talking about logos equals good. Everyone else talking about logos, not as good.
Yeah. He knows what he's talking about.
That's why we.
I sort of was interested. So where I work is for those who don't know, a great big story. And the people that are there, we did this whole big development thing on this like globe that you could spin around and click on little like pins that had different like cool videos and stuff. And like we didn't even find out that the share logo was like wrong for like a week after we released it, which means they did not share it to Facebook. But we did a press release about fonts, a font change to the website. Like we changed all of our fonts from font X to font Y, and they did a press release and like did this whole rollout. So like I'm used to dealing with people who care about things like that.
No, I thought this was an on point subject to have, and you get somebody like Ryan on was a good time. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Let's get back to some. Excuse me. Let's get back to some Georgia State stuff.
Other news.
Yeah. So I guess we started talking about this right before he came on, but Georgia Tech, the day after we concluded last week's episode, announced that 2-1 with Georgia State in basketball, which is awesome. I mean, that's exactly what we said would never happen, right?
I mean, first of all, they clearly waited until after our podcast.
Obviously, they knew what the big news was. Although I'm kind of surprised they wanted to go up against us on our release that day. Like, if people would be like, "Oh, am I going to not listen to the State of Atlanta podcast and just read this article about a basketball game?"
Right.
No, I'm gonna go listen to our podcast. But
I've never understood people who think that, like, you know, they're not going to schedule us because we're too good, and then when we're bad, they're like, they don't schedule us because we're bad. And I'm like, well, which one is it? You know?
Whichever one's convenient at the time.
In this particular case, Ryan, Coach Passner of Georgia Tech said he was not going to schedule us.
Never again.
No, this was before the game. To my knowledge, he said that he was not going to schedule us. There was no reason to schedule us.
But then he got scheduled three times, right? I mean, he's still the coach.
Well, and there was an article, at least one that I read, that said something about how the coronavirus is to blame or to think about this, about getting these closer games together. I want to know what the deal is about that game at Georgia State, because that's the year that we're supposed to be open the Convocation Center. Did we, say we'll split some ticket sales or something, or do we be like, or we give you those 2 games at McCamish and you're going to have a full house, but do they already have a full house? Because you can't buy single game tickets to that game that's scheduled this year. I looked, and maybe it's too early. I don't know.
I think it's too early right now. My curious thing is, like,
there are games available, but not men's games. There's like women's game against Florida State.
They don't sell out, man. Like, come on, man.
That would be a
beautiful
sellout game. Those 2 games in McCamish will be sellout games, especially.
I will try to go.
I want to be there.
Fans are allowed to be at sporting events again, ever.
Why'd you got to go there, man? That's like,
it'll happen. It'll happen.
Reality, David. That's fine.
This is so fitting. As soon as we get a nice football stadium, and as soon as we get a nice convocation center being built, like, oh no, it's not hip to go to sporting events any longer.
Yeah.
All right, still go.
So I guess the big question for me is, obviously I would have preferred, 2 away games, 2 home games, whatever, 2 for 1, I'll take it. Question for when they come to our arena is, do you open the season with that, or do you schedule that in like early December or sometime in January after your team's had some practice and some time to gel? Because, like, there's 2 trains of thought, right? You catch them brand new, they haven't gelled yet either, and you have a good team, you'll probably beat them the first game of the season. Or do you, give both teams some time to figure out their rosters, all the moves?
That's an excellent question. I'm glad you asked it, Tim.
What do you think?
So I think that is the big question about that game at Georgia State is Atlanta loves an event. They come out for events. Opening of a new stadium is an event, but then scheduling, Georgia State, I think that's a big event. I could see that being not necessarily the first home game, like they would do an exhibition game, like play like the University of Phoenix or whatever for the first game, and then
let's open it. Let's open it with the big game. That's what I think. Yeah, I think that matters a lot more than like what you think you can win and whatever, all that other stuff. Like, I think you just open it up with like a big, like the ribbon cutting is playing Georgia Tech.
Well, there was still preseason NFL games in Mercedes-Benz Stadium before it opened, so
play the preseason in the sports arena. Done.
Play an exhibition. Oh man, I don't want my season tickets covering that game.
Who cares?
That could be an event too. It's the last preseason game in the sports arena.
Well, I would say, like, in the Coach Hunter days, who his teams notoriously got off to a slow start, but then picked up the pace. Maybe not open it up, but with Coach Lanier, we were hot at the beginning of the season, and based off of the season, I say I'm with Ryan. Let's open up the whole thing. Let's do the whole deal.
Just like our football team, right? Use this as your marquee event game and get people to come to it. Obviously, all Georgia State people, and then hike the prices for Tech people.
Well, so I guess a question to ask is, what if there's delays in construction? Just like Mercedes-Benz, and granted, this is going to be on a far smaller scale the Mercedes-Benz was. But what happens if you're delayed by a 2-3 weeks opening and you have Georgia Tech as that opening game, and now you're playing in a sports arena and not playing in
Is it that tight?
I've got no idea. We've received no information about it. It was like we're told it's a go, but is it a go?
Yeah, I mean, for all we know, it'll be done in the middle of the previous season, and they just won't play in it until the next season.
Yeah.
I mean, I have no idea. So,
I mean, as long as there's cash, I think construction will continue.
Well, yeah, longer.
I mean, cool, good,
Faster. I mean,
good point. What if there's no cash?
Well, we don't do stats over here, Tim, so that doesn't help out.
that's a stat. Sorry.
So it's been like 6 days since I wrote down any notes about Georgia Tech, and I didn't get a chance to read through them. What do we got? Oh, so this is kind of interesting. Tech's schedule leading up to this game, to this first game here this year, is December 13th. They're playing against Stanford in Brooklyn. That's in New York. December 16th is home versus us. That's 3 days later. 2 days later, home versus Florida A&M. And 2 days after that, Delaware State. Like, they have 4 games in 7 days. 4 games. We were complaining about 3 games in 5 days. They got 4 and 7. That's ridiculous. I wish that we were like the last of those.
Right. Like, you're tired.
not number 2, but at least they're flying back from New York on that one. But that's a weird scheduling to have that many games. And I know that in December doesn't matter that much because kids aren't on campus and you just knock them out. And Florida A&M and Delaware State, I don't even know where those.
I was going to say, our students are out by then, right? Whenever our game is.
Finals will be over before we ever play. Oh, finals will be over before they play Stanford in Brooklyn.
Could we just bring our students over there to stand in their student seats?
Well, yeah, I'm sure that
Get our students to stay out that are still in Atlanta. Hey, come to this Tech game.
All of their guys are dating our girls, so.
Yeah, true.
But I thought that was a really interesting schedule. That's just a lot of games. But if nothing else, this should be putting Georgia on notice. You know, cowards. Come on, you cowards. Come down to Atlanta.
Yeah, we played everybody else, so come on.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's not likely, but I mean, why not? I mean, hey, coronavirus, you need to schedule us. I don't know.
Well, and this goes back to something we talked about a long time that Ryan abhors, but having this a state tournament, either a round robin or just a little.
What are you talking about? I abhor.
Oh, because I want to make it a law that they're required to do it.
Oh yeah, no, yes, I abhor that. That's true.
I
think it should happen.
They're state-owned organizations. It's not like you're requiring a private citizen to do something.
Yeah, well, I have problems with that too. I have problems with my own fandom of a public university. So, you know.
That's complicated, Ryan.
It is. It is.
But I think that'd be cool, though. I think Andrew made a good idea about doing a tournament every year that involves the 6 like Division I basketball programs in Georgia, and you don't have to do a round robin or any kind of thing like that. You just take based off of then when he had the conversation, the RPI. I guess now it'd be the net rankings, and net 1 and 2 from previous season play each other. 3 and 4 play each other. 5 and 6 play each other. All do it at State Farm Arena or something like that over the course of one weekend, maybe one day for that matter. 3 games in one day. That'd be fun. It'd be a good time.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's good for all the programs involved, including the bigger ones. I mean, there's nothing but good press that comes out of that, and
well, that way you don't have to worry about any kind of like crazy things. You're having 1 and 2 play each other. That's going to be a good game, you know. And if that number 1 team is Georgia State beating Georgia, then so be it. But I guess Georgia probably doesn't want to come in being the 6th team, but in net rankings.
I mean, that's good though, isn't it? Right? Like to play, like if they're increasing their strength of schedule by doing something like that, that's a good thing for them and good for the SEC, right?
No, yeah, one would certainly think that. So
yeah. I just don't buy it that they don't want to play us because we're too good, right? They want to play good teams.
I think
Well,
it's
no,
instant.
they don't want to play any team. I do buy into the fact that they don't want to play a team that's going to challenge their ability to recruit and be better themselves. So yeah, you don't want to play against Georgia State when you're recruiting in the state of Georgia, and you want to be the premier team in the state of Georgia.
Right. You don't want to be shown up by your little brother, right? That's the whole mantra.
That's the thing. And then I know, Ryan, your backup is that is, well, then if we're really crappy, then they don't want to play us because then we're not good enough. But Georgia and Georgia Tech come from the big wig conferences that get to dictate and they get to decide how they do things. And if we were in a similar position, would we want to do it at all? Like, let's not talking serious at all, but like all of a sudden, Tech moves to the Big Ten or whatever that joke was, and the ACC picks up Georgia State. Never happening, but let's say that. Would we ever want to schedule Georgia Southern again in anything? No. Why?
Yeah.
True. No.
No, I think you would.
Then again, I don't want to schedule Georgia Southern in anything ever. Like, I don't even want to acknowledge they have an athletic program.
I mean, honest to God, like the technical reason I wouldn't want to schedule Georgia Southern is because they run a weird offense that we would not have to prepare for otherwise. If they played like normal football, like everyone else, I would say, yeah, let's play them. And I know that's not going to be popular on this podcast, but like that's the way it is, man. Like they play weird football, so F them.
I acknowledge that where we are supposed to be playing Southern in every sport, every season. I acknowledge that. I just don't want to.
No, I'm with you, Ryan. I'm fine playing them if they don't play that style of offense.
Yeah, that's that style of offense that really screws it up. So if we just talk about basketball, let's play them. Who cares?
That's absurd. Do you think that Georgia doesn't want to play Tech because Tech was playing an option offense all the time? No, that was tradition and history. They had to play each other. That's
why they did it, because they had that additional variable of tradition and history.
Yeah.
They didn't want to, though. That's the one game they played. Georgia could be like national championship caliber and then like lose to Georgia Tech because they had a triple option that no one else had, and it's dumb because they didn't have to practice for it at all until that week.
Well, then just play Georgia Southern the week before.
Well, they did that. That's a strategy they took.
They actually have played option teams, lower division before, lower caliber teams.
Yeah.
But it still doesn't matter. I mean,
even Saban came out and said, this is a bad strategy. Why would we do this?
Well, my question for you, Ryan, is let's get back to Georgia State playing Georgia Tech and basketball. Is this a basketball game that you'll go to? Are these 3 basketball games we can count on seeing you inside the stadium for?
Yeah, I would try to go to those games for sure.
We got to try. We got to try on that. Yeah.
I would I'll buy the tickets, and if I have to get rid of them, I have to get rid of them. But I'll at least commit the money.
And we're gonna tailgate this too, right? We're gonna tailgate.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
you
I
can
have parking because I work for Warner Media is one of my clients. I don't know if I'm supposed to say things like that, but
it's fine.
You can say whatever you want to say.
It's right across the street, so I have parking.
Well, yeah.
Commit to going to the home game that we host.
No, I mean I want to go. I want to go.
Well,
overall, I think we have a good shot of taking the series. I mean, we just need to take one of those first 2 from them, and then it's a home game for us.
Well, that was my thought is we win the 2 games at McCamish, and we talk about having an event in Atlanta at the new Convocation Center. That'd be a big one right there.
Yes, David is setting up the perfect.
We would be the favored team unless Lanier's left and recruiting's gone to crap over the next 2 seasons. But I mean, but I'm just saying, like that's set up for a story. That's a good one right there. That's something that Doug Roberson would actually have to say something positive about Georgia State again.
Maybe.
I don't know. He could spin that if he wants to. He's got ways.
He would find the one empty seat in the new Convocation Center and be like, they couldn't sell it out, could they? I'm like, that guy was getting a hot dog.
There's like a tile that's not perfectly aligned or something somewhere. I don't
know. No, but I'm already in tailgate planning mode for this whole thing. Like I want to have I'm taking that day off of work, and I'm going to go down there first thing in the morning. I have not discussed this with my wife whatsoever at all. and I'm going to go down there. I mean, to be fair, though, she gets tired of me talking about Georgia State. So if I brought it up, she'd just be annoyed. So why bring it up?
Are you talking about to McCamish?
Yes, this December 13th or whatever it is.
This year?
This year.
Oh, shit, man. That's soon.
Yeah, I'm just trying to do it in the middle of the pandemic. No big deal.
But what do you mean? By December, it's going to be all long gone.
It's gone by November something, right?
Damn, we're already open again.
That's when the second wave comes, right?
Supposedly.
No, we're good, man. We're golden.
Let's record it right here and see what happens.
You heard it here first. Yeah, America. Tune in for all your coronavirus news. The state of Atlanta.
Ryan drunkenly says, by December, we're good. Golden even.
So I think we put a nail on that one.
Yeah.
So the other news, not a lot to say about it. Just a big congrats to Dan Ellington.
Woo!
New assistant coach at Georgia State. Looks like he'll be helping out both the running backs and the quarterbacks and wide receivers. And what does that guy know about catching a ball?
The running back and quarterback makes a lot of sense to me, but
quarterback and running back make a lot of sense. But what does he know about catching a ball? You know?
I mean, he knows where to tell them to be.
Be wherever I throw the ball.
But I mean, you gotta like especially in some of the college football, people are running routes, and the routes are a lot more important because quarterbacks are a lot less able to adjust based on I took a few extra steps and things like that.
Oh, I know. And educating on receiver on when this is happening or that's happening, this is how the quarterback's going to react and, lead you to the ball type stuff. And yeah, I get it.
Don't do this thing that you think is a great idea in the moment, but you're really going to screw me up.
Exactly. Make me look good, make your look good. No one's going to remember your name 5 years from now, but that quarterback, they'll remember him. So make sure to make him look good. That's all that matters.
I mean, I'm super happy for Dan. I think he, commands a presence in the locker room. He's got the respect and the buy-in from all the players and from the coaches for that matter. So, I mean, he should do pretty well in the position he's put in right now. And,
Well, he says he's always wanted to be a coach. He's always wanted to coach football. So that's good for him. Get the opportunity. And what better to get opportunity at your alma mater? My only question is I can see pros and cons to going straight from player to coach in the same organization. Is there going to be a problem? All right, you used to pal around with him in the locker room, and now he's the one telling you, get your ass out the door and do your laps or whatever. There's going to be an issue there. But that being said, I don't see that being an issue for Dan.
The problem is one of to make a weird crass comparison, it's like inbreeding, right? It's like you go into the same program you were in and you're not going to learn as much. And so you might not be as exposed to new ideas as you might be if you went to a different program and then came back, right?
Well, there's a rule at the university system of Georgia is you're not allowed to be a professor at the university you got your degree from.
Yep.
For that exact same reason.
Yep.
They want you to get different experiences from somewhere else. So yeah, you're absolutely right. But I don't think now, if you're telling me my options are Dan becomes an assistant coach at Georgia State right now, and then over the next 10, 20 years moves up the ranks, becomes a head coach, I'm okay with that. But also, if this is just Dan's first job as a coach and moves on to another location and bounces around for 20 years and then comes back as the first return player as a head coach, I'm also okay with that. But actually, he'll be the second because Nick will.
Well, that's more likely. I mean, we know how much things are shaken up, between coaches, and we can probably expect between every 3 to 5 years we'll get new coaches, and the whole tree just gets shaken up. So.
Yeah. Well, yeah, if we're not changing out our coach every 3 to 5 years, then
we're doing something wrong.
Something's messed up.
If Dan just stays there for a decade, that's weird.
Yeah.
Or we're Georgia Tech, right? I mean,
what?
Paul Johnson seemed to be.
Well, I was going to say Mike Bobo, but he was there under Rick the entire time. So.
Yeah, but even then, they figured out that wasn't working. That's not a good strategy.
Yeah.
So, Dan, if you're listening, we'd love to have you on the podcast. Just reach out to State of Atlanta on Twitter.
Yeah, David will,
And actually, At this point, Tim is our official recruiter of interviewees.
I'm just logos, colors. That's it. Flags.
All right. Yeah, Dan, love to have you on the podcast, obviously. And that goes out to every former player and pretty much any alum or fan. If you want to come on, let us know. And I'm not guaranteeing you a spot, but if you want to come on the podcast, let us know.
Yeah, we love shooting the shit.
Maybe we can do
if you're a weirdo, David will definitely turn you down. I won't have anything to do with the decision, but he will turn you down.
If I turn down every weirdo, then Ryan would never have been on this podcast. So so there was another little bit of an article. This is the last thing I really got to talk about before the last call. And this is what we kind of hinted at earlier on. There was an article by the Sun Herald, name of the website or our publication, whatever, article by Patrick McGee about the coronavirus has proven that the Sun Belt and the Conference USA should just do a forced realignment regionally to make things easier, save money on both all the teams in the both conferences. So that would put Georgia State into a conference that is Louisiana Tech, Southern Miss, that's West, East. Sorry, wrong. East. The Florida Atlantic, Florida International, Western Kentucky, Marshall, Middle Tennessee, Old Dominion, App State, Charlotte, Southern, Georgia State, Troy, and Coastal.
Oh my God, yes.
That would be a better conference than we're in right now.
Oh my God, yes.
The only problem with this I see, and it's not that big of a problem, but it's a problem with any of these kind of realignment talks, is getting those Florida schools. The Florida schools are the ones that being able to make it bus trips everywhere, they
are further than you expect them to be.
Yeah, so they really make it difficult. And so no matter what you talk about regionalizing, even if you include the American Conference in this whole big, huge shakeup, Georgia State's still one of the closest schools to all the Florida schools. So we get lumped into that. And so it kind of kills the bus trip.
I have a solution to that, and that is we can go with Ryan's idea and just relegate them down to FCS.
You're gonna relegate the FAU and FIA to FCS. Yeah.
What about UCF? Do they get relegated down?
Well, no, they're close enough. It's like 6.5, 7 hours, right?
They're national champs, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, you say that, but no, that's a
better separated from UAB. They're so close.
And also in this whole thing, when I look at it, UAB getting not included into a conference with Georgia State just sucks.
That's weird. Well, it's so close.
Delays. Because I even did my own map of mixing up all three conferences: Sun Belt, Conference USA, and American.
Yeah.
Excuse me, and putting it into three different conferences, and we still don't end up playing UAB based off of geography.
Weird.
But when I did it,
he's in our conference.
When I drew my lines, I had an option. I could either put Tulane in our conference or put Georgia Southern in our conference, and so I put Tulane.
No, I you needed a bigger drum roll than that, because that's
right there.
That's insane, man.
You were not drunk, were you?
I was not drunk. I was sober.
That's the problem right there.
I was as sober as I can be, and there's always some residual alcohol left over from the night before. So
Tulane over Georgia Southern, really?
Yeah, I'd rather play a city school than a backwoods country school, I guess. I don't know.
No, but what do you mean a city? It's New Orleans. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
You didn't have enough drinks, obviously.
But I actually see if I can pull up my. Wasn't prepared to do this at all. So I can pull up my map. You guys want to see my map that I did?
Yes.
All right, share.
I'll see our future conference.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Is this like a sweet Google map with like rando icons?
We have like stats for that.
Yes, here it is. All right.
Yeah, so it creates three conferences, two 12-team, one 11-team conference, And then I also included putting New Mexico State, pulling them from independence into the West to be close to El
So, so where is Georgia Southern in this scenario?
They're in the East, playing against those schools. I don't count this one.
Oh, I see.
That's Liberty. Liberty would not be included in this. But
Okay.
yeah.
They're like a maybe optional.
Well, I created it's different layers on my Google map, and I had my independence all as one. So I technically UMass is up here as well, but I didn't have them included in anybody. But those are decent, and that puts us into a conference with UCF and USF and Memphis. Did I include UAB in there?
Well, and if you did travel partners even in football with like UCF and who's in Tampa? Is that
USF?
Yeah, if you did like UCF and USF, and then you did FIU and FAU as like travel partner type things, that would make it a lot easier.
Yeah. But that was my comment. There's no way it's ever going to happen because Americans never going to split up to pull in Sunbelt and Conference USA teams.
Right.
But just a little pipe dream hope about what a conference could look like.
Yeah, I mean, you worked on this.
It's been a few minutes.
Who's in Philly and Washington?
Temple is in Philly, and Washington
Baltimore
is the Naval Academy.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I can share that later if anybody else wants to see it. So yeah, but that's kind of fun to talk about. I don't think a big shakeup's going to happen this year.
I don't think so. I think we're all just going to survive. All the conferences, all the schools. We're just going to try to survive the best we can.
I think in Sunbelt, the only chance of anything really happening, and it would have to take another second outbreak, it'd be Monroe dropping down. But that's about it. I don't think any other schools. You may see some sports drop. And I think if you do see sports drop, and it happens to a lot of schools, I know the G5 schools have already petitioned NCAA to lax the rules. They said no, they'll just do it later. They'll come back and they'll change it later.
Just kidding. You can.
Yeah, we're going to allow it now. Too many schools will not qualify. You have a waiver for 2 or 3 years to get stuff going again. I don't know. Yeah.
All right.
I think that's all I got for this week until you guys want to do some last call action.
Sure, man.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Well, I think that means that we are going to sign off on the Facebook live feeds. Thanks to our viewers, Max, who's still around with us. Thanks for watching. And this will all be posted up tomorrow, and last call will be available to our Patreon tomorrow and for free to everybody else on Friday. So thanks, watchers.
Thanks.
Bye.
All right. The live stream has stopped. I have